Chapter 17. The crowd of captives mumbles among themselves. Then several elves and a group of men move forward. We have sailed before. Rosner has never been good with accents, but he believes it is from the East Coast. Nothing like this, the man continues, waving his arms. But we have experience. An orc next to him snorts. And what of the lass? If Rosner has to guess, he was a merchant that sailed around the Sea of Sand. It is curious as to why he is here. Another man, smaller but comparable in size, looks the orc up and down. What of it? Women are not fit to sail. She is one of the best sailors you will ever meet, orc. The disgusted emphasis on orc seems to reflect something personal from the man's past. Rosner sighs. This is not what they need. But how does he address it? The orc snorts. Why does she not speak for herself, then? No tongue. As if to prove it, she opens her mouth. Rosner cannot help but stiffen a little. No tongue. The orc lets out a short laugh. Ha! And here I thought you kept her for pleasure. A second later, the woman has a dagger pressed against the orc's lower section. Everyone quiets. She does not take kindly to comments like those, the large man informs. The orc, however, does not seem to hear. He glares at the woman 2 feet below. You would not dare. For a moment, she holds his gaze. Then she lowers her weapon. See, the orc says, smiling. This is... The creature falls to the deck. The woman steps back and wipes off her blade. Silence. Then a dwarf nearby asks in awe, Are you in the current engagement? The men that are with the woman burst out laughing. The woman smirks, then kisses the air before joining her companions. Sails! Rosner and the rest run to the railing and look out over the sea. As he does, he curses himself for forgetting about them. Sure enough, the 2 chasers that are known to guard the ship slice through the waves towards them. But the fear that initially drapes over the crowd of escaped prisoners is pulled away and replaced with something of confusion. The ships are close enough to make out vague details, but too far to clearly see any individuals. However, no one needs an eyeglass to know what is happening. 3 other ships have engaged in combat with the 2 vessels. They are smaller than the chasers, lighter, more mobile, but hold far less occupants. Murmurs pass around the crowd as they all attempt to decipher what lies before them. We take advantage of a situation and sail away. This woman is persistent. The same one who backed Rosner up earlier now stands on the first few steps leading to the top of the forecastle. And I see we fight. Rosner turns. It is the large man who spoke against the orc. The man pushes his way to the woman and, although he stands a step below her, he is still taller. When he notices he has everyone's attention, he continues. We have the chance to give them what they've given us. Pain and suffering. They deserve to be punished for the crimes they have committed in taking us from our homes and killing our loved ones. Someone asks what they would do if the other ships start attacking them. To this, the woman replies, I would not worry about that. When several of those around her cast questioning looks, including Rosner, she adds, They are small vessels and thus carry few crew members. They will no doubt be able to outrun us, but if it comes to a chase, it will be them running from us. And if that happens, we hand ourselves back over to the Venmarayan. Silence. Then, what do you suppose we do then? She looks over the crowd and, for a brief moment, her eyes lock with Rosner's. Then they move on. We sail to Lebem, as the ship's course dictates. When we arrive, it should be nightfall, and if it is not, we will slow our approach. Once there, you all will be free to wander unhindered. In response to another asking about her ability to guarantee their safety, she announces that she is familiar with the customs of Lebem. Some more question her, but she holds her own. In the end, it will be your collective decision. But just know the longer we sit here, the further we drift from freedom. This catches the group's attention. Several shift uncomfortably as they play out the different scenarios in their minds. In the end, slowly, the group collectively agrees to trust this woman over risking being recaptured due to chasing away those who are currently providing a distraction. They separate into groups based on prior relations and skills and take off with the mute woman at the helm. As they start up their journey once more, now under their own volition, the dwarf who asked if she was in an engagement stands beside Rosner and stares up at her. "Hey, mute woman. Captain's a ship I doubt you'll ever know." Though he too finds this curious, his head remains on a swivel, waiting for other ships to overcome them. It is another 3 days before they reach the city, which allows Rosner to think about what he has gone through over the past several weeks. When he does, the anger he houses for Arendt returns. He still does not understand why you put everything on him, and it builds as Rosner relives those days up to the start of this one. His anger is replaced by confusion as he recalls the knife in his hand. He takes it out now and studies it. The blade is blacker than a night without the eyes of Perilius and the stars to guide the lost. It is long and narrow. Black leather wraps around the handle. The guard consists of 2 small, claw-like pieces of steel that curve up ever so slightly. A deep red gem about the size of his thumbnail is set into either side of the guard. Behind him, several languages intermingle throughout the deck. Their tones are still hesitant, as if someone expects something to happen at any moment. The breeze distorts most of the words Rosner hears, but what he does catch are not happy thoughts. He turns the blade over in his hand. "This blade is cursed." The elf's warning rings in his ears. The orc told him the same thing. Then he kills 2 creatures with it by stabbing them nowhere remotely vital. Curious, Rosner sets his thumb against the blade. Would he succumb himself to the fate of the other 2 if this blade breaks his skin? The idea of it seems ridiculous, yet he is certain the other 2 would disagree. "There's talk that you had that blade." Looking over his shoulder is Masra. Shortly after setting sail, the vocal archer introduced herself. It was short, quick. They have not talked since. They have been sailing for the better part of a day now. Rosner goes to tuck it away, but she stops him. "Do you know anything about this?" Masra shakes her head. "Only rumors, my pet." Then she takes out a small cloth and reaches for the blade. Rosner hands it to her. She handles it as if it were something brittle, or rather something that can kill her. "You know, they say the eternal soldier gives away a blade like this when someone is in need, especially to those who have been captured by their enemies. They use it to escape. However, once they do, the blade just disappears. People say once it serves its initial purpose, the eternal soldier takes it back." "Then why do they say it is cursed?" Masra points to the gem. In this gem is an ancient symbol. No one knows what it means anymore, but wherever people find this symbol, death tends to follow. In the case of the blade, it tends to disappear at the most inopportune moment, causing the death of the one that used it in most cases. That, or they are recaptured later. It is curious that you still have it. It tells me, you at least, still have something to escape from. Are you running from something, my pet? Again, Rosner ignores the title, though he does admit to himself that is an odd way starting to grow on him, which, in and of its own right, bothers him. Nothing comes to mind, Rosner lies, taking back the blade to study the symbol himself. She looks him up and down for a moment. When you are ready to tell the truth, find me. I will listen. Before he can reply, Masra turns and walks away. He stares after her for a moment. With the life-giver just leaving her throne, her light casts over everything, leaving very little to the shadows. Then he turns back to the gem. Against the deep red, the gold inscription of the symbol is a stark contrast. Not to mention the design seems strange for the weapon. Yet the power that emanates from it is deadly. It reminds Rosner of a flower with a stalk and two petals, but the flower itself floats above the rest of the plant. The flower has a crescent shape with the opening facing up and a circle within it. As he stares at it, the more mesmerizing it becomes. It is not until the dead of night, 2 days later, and under the eyes of Perelios, a week from a black night, that they approach Lebem, the capital of Basalm. As Rosner learns from Masra, is a giant port city with a defense to match. As they get closer, the fire from Lars braziers casts a nasty glow along the high cliff overlooking the water and follows it into a slow descent to the river at its base. The guard towers are spaced evenly between every other brazier with a large fire on either side of the towers. On each one is a trebuchet, a large sling capable of throwing a 200-pound rock over 800 feet away, or rather, many lighter rocks to increase the damage area. Along the wall, the glow of the fires outlined catapults and scorpions ready to stop an invasion. Mute steers the ship towards the river and the two-season harbor. According to Masra, whenever Maris takes a Sturm's place, the water level rises significantly, so half the harbor is used for a portion of the year, while the other half is used for the other. They are separated by a giant door that keeps the harbor of a Sturm from flooding when Maris comes. Really, it is quite an ingenious system, and one that probably took many years to build. Well, at least we can finally sleep, he sighs. Masra, who stands beside him at the prow, lets out a dry laugh. You really are naive, my pets. We are not sleeping at any point soon. Before he can ask what she means, she calls out to the ship. All right, everyone below deck. We cannot have the city guards see a bunch of wannabes on board the entertainer. That means you, my pets. Amidst the heavy footsteps and minor arguing of everyone below, Rosner looks at Masra in confusion. What do you mean, that means you? I'm not going to leave you alone. I feel you underestimate me, my pets. Rosner sighs, unable to hold it back anymore. He must know. And another thing. Why do you call me your pets? What is that even supposed to mean? Masra peers into Rosner's eyes. Her deep hazel eyes feel like they are burrowing into his soul. Not menacingly, but curiously. It makes Rosner's skin crawl, She leans forward a step and cups his face in her hand and smiles. I think we will have some fun together. She pauses and pats his cheek. Now, if you do not mind going below deck, it would be appreciated. Someone walks up behind him. The lass is right, Hirai informs. He too introduced himself shortly after setting sail. He is the voice of the tongueless woman, Mute. Best have as few visible as possible. So while Mute stays at the helm and the rest of her crew prepares to dock the ship, everyone else heads below. Everyone but Masra. Raised voices grow louder as Rosner walks down the steps to the galley. When he reaches the bottom, heads slowly turn and the voices quiet. To all but Rosner's surprise, Haran, the one who spoke out against Masra, is the first to speak. So, what is that civil-tongued wench planning now, rebel leader? To Rosner's annoyance, he has taken to using this term as a curse, or something that leaves a sour taste in his mouth. Rosner wants his first response to be, I do not know, but he cannot help but think that it is not something anyone wants to hear. So, he does the next best thing he can think of, and that is to walk over to the bar to the left and put a stool next to Asgrith, the orc he saved from the Minotaur. At some point throughout the night, he had learned Asgrith and his brother Mesgar were the last of the Swamp Dragon clan from the Dorpin Forest. They were the only survivors when the soldiers attacked them. When Rosner heard this, he started to feel sorry about saving his life. To be the last, he could not see why anyone would want to live. What would be the point? Everyone you love and care for is now dead. Then Asgrith told him his clan did not care for blood family. He told Rosner they judged family on how much blood they shed in honor of their clan that made them family. After Rosner did what he did with the Minotaur, Asgrith considered him a brother, and as such will defend Rosner like he did him. Harn crosses the room. Hey, rebel leader, I asked you a question. What do you not know? Has that pretty-mouthed witch taken hold of you like everyone else? Rosner does not look at him, but he can hear people moving out of his way as he gets closer. I tell you, from experience, the only thing a pretty mouth like that is good for is... Before Rosner knows what he is doing, he has his blade in hand, ready to cut Haran's tongue out. He does not get more than half a turn when Asgrith places a heavy, firm hand on his. Careful he has not touched the blade. Their eyes meet, and Rosner feels the anger drain almost immediately. The orc's eyes are filled with anger as well, but also sadness. Why are these two emotions together, especially in that of an orc? Haran, who is only a couple steps away, puts his hands up in mockery. Oh, guess I must have pushed too far. Rosner looks back at him, the blade at his side. Seeing Haran's smile sends anger pulsing back into his veins, but he holds himself back. I apologize if I'm stepping into your love life, Haran continues. He chuckles. Well, actually, I do not blame you. I think all of us would like to step into her for a little bit. Enough! Everyone stares at Asgrith in shock and fear. He is not the only orc here, but he is by far the biggest. When he speaks, his gruff voice vibrates every wooden fiber in the room. Enough, he says calmer than before. We do not need this. This is bad. We survive together. For a moment, no one makes a sound. Then Haran speaks up. We might have survived this together, he spits. But do not think I'm staying once we dock. Women do not know how to lead and never will. Their duty is to the house and the bed. Most of the few women that are present stir in their seats or on their feet uncomfortably. It is obvious they all disagree. One or two spit on the floor. A red female orc even grabs for a longsword on her hip, but a stern look from Osgreth stops her. A chair scratches the floor off to Rosner's right. He watches a dwarf climb onto the chair and then the table. When he turns around, he recognizes it as Dekriv. You know, Reese Killer, he huffs. I think you are one of the reasons why many of the races hate yours. Haran rounds on Dekriv. Is that right, gem thief? He spits. And why is that? Dekriv points a thick stub of a finger at him. You are a self-centered twit whose half-conscious mind focuses only on killing and keeping your loins warm. You do not think of the repercussions of your actions and what they mean for others. And if I hear you say gem thief again, I'm going to scramble those eggs between your legs you so care for. The man lets out a laugh. You accuse me of things I have been aware of for years. They are things of pleasure, and no one is going to change my mind, especially some low-life gem thief. Dekriv whips out his hammer. All right, that is it. He jumps from the table and charges Haran, plowing through those who are not fast enough to get out of his way. One poor dwarf tries to hold him back, only to receive a backhand across the face. Haran takes out his sword with a grin. Finally, Rosner hears him say. When everyone realizes this cannot be stopped, they back away to make room so they do not get hit. Haran is the first to strike. He swings his sword down, only to have Dekriv catch it with his hammer and throw it up. The dwarf finishes the move in a spin, throwing Haran slightly off balance, and follows through by swinging his weapon at the back of the man's foot, sweeping it from underneath him. Haran crashes through the floor with a heavy thud. The man quickly rolls out of the way as Dekriv's hammer slams into the floor, where Haran's chest was half a second prior. Haran's blade cuts the air just over Dekriv's head, then comes back for his side. Dekriv blocks, then twists his hammer and yanks. Haran's blade flies across the room and clatters to the ground. He prepares to swing at waist level, then stops. Haran chuckles. What? You cannot carry through your words. Masra finishes walking into the room. Well, do not stop killing each other on my account. I just came to say we are finally docked. There are a handful of patrols around the docks, so I suggest we leave in small groups. But if you all feel it better to increase your chances of getting away by killing each other, then go ahead. I will be on deck making sure no one boards. When she disappears back upstairs, Haran pushes past Dekriv and retrieves his sword. Then he looks at a group of 4 men and nods his head towards the door. When they too disappear, the dwarf looks at Roster and smiles. Are you this close to scrambling those tiny eggs of his? Everyone, including Rosner, erupts in laughter. Rosner watches Dekriv walk off the ship with his small band of 4, leaving Masra, Osgreth, and himself. To no surprise of his, Mute, Hirai, and the rest of her group were gone before anyone else. When Dekriv bids them all goodbye, he makes sure to grasp Rosner's forearm, a firm but kind grip, and thanks him for releasing them. We will meet again. I have a strong feeling about it, he tells him before walking the plank to the dock where the rest of the group waits. As they reach the stone street and head into the city, Rosner looks at the wall to his left. You say we are in the harbor of Maris? Masra appears at his side. Correct. On the other side of that wall is the harbor of Istirn. We move. Asgreth breathes behind them. Masra nods and pats Rosner's arm. He is right. We should go. Rosner peers up at the city and lets out a sigh. The harbor, the plain, and the eye. He looks at each in turn until his gaze reaches the crown of it all. The passageway watch. Carefully constructed castle made for defense instead of majesticness. Despite this, the eyes of Perelios, mixed with the glow of the fires along the city walls, gives the castle a look of eerie beauty. Stretching away from the fiery glow and closer to the eye are the thin outline of two towers far above the few that exist. They both face the sea, yet the one on the left has an extra 2 floors. Rosner turns to Masra. Okay. Most ignore them as they walk by. Some eyes linger for a few seconds before moving on. He reminds Rosner of Venik Demir, in a way. The streets are not as busy. Of course, it is late in the night, and the buildings are different, but it has the same general feel. It is obvious the further away from the docks they travel, the more run down the buildings and their inhabitants are, but it is nothing that causes too much alarm. After several silent minutes pass, Asgreth grumbles behind him. Where does the fierce lady take us? Masra lets out a small laugh. Not much further, my friend, she promises. Then the cliff face starts to tower over them, and everything becomes eerie. And within the rock is a void, absent of torchlight, and the glow of the eyes of Perelios. Rosner follows the blackness up and up and up. Far above them, the eyes reveal the edge of the cliff. Rosner feels himself fill up with uncertainty. Where are you taking us? He asks, repeating Asgreth's question while trying to control his unease. Underwatch. Like magic, the mouth of a large tunnel fades into existence, ready to swallow them whole. Rosner sees a glow so faint within the opening he is not sure if it is real or is his imagination. What he knows he does see is Masra walk into the black and allow herself to be swallowed by it. Behind him, Asgreth gives him a sharp jab with his finger. You are stronger than darkness, rebel leader. Rosner is not sure if that is his version of inspirational motivation or him being annoyed and just wanting to keep going. Either way, his feet begin to move forward again. As he enters the maw of the cliff face, the streets shift from cobblestone to compact dirt. At first, Rosner feels as if he does not gain any ground. His feet carry him forward, but the light at the end does not change. It just stays the same small speck of brilliance in contrast to the overwhelming darkness that surrounds him. He glances behind him once more, then twice, to check if he has put any distance between himself and the entrance. But all Rosner sees is the chest of the orc. Panic starts to well up inside him. Where is Masra taking them? Are her and Asgreth actually in league with each other and have plans to kill him? Then the more rational part of him questions what reason they have to do so. After a few more steps, the light begins to grow and Rosner's heart stops racing. At some point, Masra outline comes into view. It is not long before you can see the outline of the tunnel and what looks like doors set into either side. A few more steps, and actual buildings wrap themselves around the doors. In front of them, Rosner now sees the main source of light, a brazier on an arch over what looks like a fountain. But what steals his attention are the buildings around him, and the feeling he had in the tunnel returns. The wooden buildings are packed tight, some relying on their neighbors to keep them up. Others have narrow alleys that run in between, revealing nothing more than a few feet in. For all Rosner knows, eyes could be on them from every crevice a body can fit into. His eyes dart back and forth, trying to take in his surroundings, but the spacing of the lanterns makes the task very difficult. Masra, on the other hand, keeps her head forward, never once looking at what lies about them. Then he starts to see them. Sprawling against the sides of buildings are countless creatures. Humans, halflings, gnomes, dwarves, and a few others, each one wearing nothing more than rags. Many of them look at the group as they pass, some with jealousy, others hunger, few with menace. A small few even watch them with sadness. Some of them are lit by torchlight. A small handful stare at them from the darkness of small alleyways. "Do not mind them," Masra whispers. "They do not pose any threat." Rosner raises an eyebrow. "You sure? Looks like they are all ready to jump." Masra does not stop walking, but glances back with a shake of her head. "If that is how you view them, you have more to learn than I expected. Oh, come now, my pet. You will not be needing that." He follows Masra's gaze and takes his hand off the hilt of his sword. He does not remember even putting it there. Rosner must be more exhausted than he originally thought. No one approaches them. They simply watch. Then finally they enter the square and approach a strange fountain at its heart. "What is that?" he asks Masra. She turns to him and smiles, the glow of the fire casting a look of purity on her face. "This is the clock of Underwatch. 2 dwarven brothers built it not too long after the castle was built. Since the Life-Giver nor the Eyes have domain here, it helps those that live in Underwatch keep track of them. The flame acts like the Life-Giver, following the arc she takes across the sky. It is lit at the kiss and smothered at the rise." She walks over and slides her hand softly on the fountain's wall. In a softer voice, she says, "It gives them something real to grasp. You may not think too much of it right now, but living down here takes its toll on everyone. It might not be the real thing, but everyone looks to it with hope they will leave this place." Rosner stops staring at the arc with its whirling gears and looks at Masra. "Why do they just not leave then, if they do not like it here?" She shakes her head. "You really do not get it. Most do not have any money, and those that do spend it on food for those that cannot get it themselves. A small handful have tried to leave, but they can hardly defend themselves. They work hard when they can find jobs, but if one tries to leave with money in his pocket, he will end up dead, either from the blade of a high-edged sword they thought they could trust, or a greedy ship captain who promised safe passage." For a second, all he hears is the quiet hum of the machine. Then a thought occurs to him. "Masra, how do you know all this stuff about this place?" Sadness pours into her eyes. For a moment, he thinks she will not answer him, but then she says, "Because I live here. I was one of those who thought they could get away." Rosner is at a loss for words. He looks at Osgreth, but he just stares back. Unsure of what to do, Rosner goes to put a hand on her and says he's sorry. Masra pushes his arm aside. "Do not." She spits, her face tense and angry. After a moment, it relaxes, and she says in a calmer manner, "It is what it is. We will sleep over here." She turns around and starts down a narrow alley, a stone's throw between each torch.